We've been through this before. We know that action is the antidote to despair. November 2016 was another confusing and dark time. I was lost and struggling to figure out how I could help our community. By the summer of 2017, I decided to run for office to help protect public power and to ensure an equitable distribution of the benefits of the clean energy transition. That's right. I have always believed strongly in clean energy and local power. So how have you all felt since November or January or this week? That's right, that's right. Yeah, me too. Rough times is a massive understatement. Last night, my mom let me know how she's been feeling. She said, every day it's some other screwed up stuff. But that's not the word she used. Well said, Mom. The past few months have been increasingly hateful and selfish, with arbitrary, irresponsible, wasteful chaos in government cuts led by billionaire Elon and his puppy patrol or doggy team or whatever it is, causing destruction across our country and even right here in Nebraska. Funding to modernize the Omaha airport is being threatened. Farmers are struggling to understand the implications of tariffs on the sale of their crops around the world. Public health information is being hidden from the public. That's right. And technology to help keep our electric grid reliable and affordable is being held up and shut down. All this destruction is on the pretense that it justifies massive tax cuts to giant corporations and billionaires at the expense of working families. Nothing justifies that. Nothing. That's right. So, are you going to allow that? Are you going to let billionaires deprive people of clean energy and run our government as a way to enrich themselves? Are you going to let 3 votes in the House of Representatives be enough to shred the Constitution of the United States of America? Are we going to let our representative be one of those votes? As residents of a district that voted against Donald Trump, are we going to let our elected officials know how we feel? Are we going to fight to protect Medicaid and education and programs that support working people? We are going to continue to support each other as we always have. We are going to stand shoulder to shoulder in solidarity. We are going to let our voices be heard. I look forward to continuing to work alongside all of you to protect our power. And now it is my great pleasure to welcome to the stage a true leader of our community, the Blue Dot elector, a passionate and dedicated neighborhood advocate, and my longtime personal friend, Precious McKesson. Get it, girl.
Hey, y'all. Woo! It's been a long day. It's so good to see all y'all here. Thank you, Eric, so much for those kind words. For those who do not know who I am, my name is Precious McKesson, and I'm the Executive Director for the Nebraska Democratic Party. I am also a mom, a neighborhood organizer, a proud member of IBW Local 265, and a member of the North Omaha community. In this moment, President Trump and his billionaire-in-chief, Elon Musk, are using their power to hurt us, the working class. And we know this isn't the first time. Donald Trump and the Republican Party have never been for the working class. He has spent 4 years trying to get his buddies richer while we all suffered. But this time around, it's different. I mean, his right-hand man is literally the richest person on earth. How in the world can we expect 2 billionaires to have the priorities of the working class at heart? This time around, we can't get complacent or assume that the working class will vote for Democrats. We have to be the party who fights for marginalized communities, delivers on providing livable wages to our laborers, and we have to work each and every day to earn the votes of working class Americans. And that is why I am so proud to stand here today with you all and welcome my friend, my union brother, my fellow Nebraska Democratic Party leader, Mr. Ron Kaminsky. Thank you all.
clap. Look at all the people in here. This is amazing. I'm amazed right now. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers, sisters, distinguished guests, and friends, my name is Ron Kaminsky, and I'm a proud member of the Laborers International Union of North America. I am honored to be the president of the Nebraska and Southwest Iowa Building and Construction Trades Council and the vice chair of the Nebraska Democratic Party. Before I get started, can we give all the hotel workers, the volunteers, the staff, I was going to say a round of applause, but you guys beat me to it. But they're the ones who made this event possible. So thank you. And most importantly, I would like to thank you all for being here today. I am here to support the working class, our unions, and those who support them. And tonight, we get to hear from one of our biggest supporters, and I'm grateful that he is here with us. It is an honor to stand before you and introduce a man who has been an unwavering advocate for working people, social justice, economic equality, Senator Bernie Sanders. Bernie, 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 Bernie. For decades, Bernie Sanders has fought for what is right without compromise. He has made his stance clear that the struggles of working families, those who work hard every day to make ends meet, must always come first. Whether it's standing up for universal health care, a living wage, or the right to organize and join a union, Bernie has been a relentless voice for the people. In the face of so much inequality, Bernie has never backed down. He has dedicated his political career to building a society that prioritizes the needs of the many over the interests of a few. He's consistently challenged the political and economic status quo, always pushing for policies that uplift the working class. And as we look at the State of the Union today, it's clear that this fight is more important than ever. After what we have seen in the last 30 days with the current administration, we need to join together. We need to organize, and we need to push back against it, or we will all lose out, every single one of us. We have witnessed an administration that is hostile to workers and to unions. From the very beginning, his policies and rhetoric has set the stage for an unprecedented assault on working people's rights. He and his allies are once again working to weaken unions, dismantle labor protections, and roll back worker rights. On January 28, 2025, just recently, as soon as he got into office, he dismantled the National Labor Relations Board and put corporations back in charge, which is guaranteed to hurt every single one of us in this room. The government has once again chosen to side with corporate interests rather than workers who just want fair wages, benefits, and a safe working environment. Despite this relentless assault, the workers of this country have never given up, and now is the time to double down on our fight. Bernie Sanders has always stood in solidarity with us, pushing back against these attacks and advocating for a government that works for everyone, not just the top 1%. His calls for a higher minimum wage, expanded union rights, and policies that address income inequality are just some of the ways he's taken action to fight for the workers who have never been left behind by corporate greed. And let's not forget Bernie's push for universal health care, his support for family leave, his commitment to education and affordable housing, all stem from his deep belief that the economic security is a right, not a privilege. But let's all be honest, right? We're all in a room with fellow supporters, folks that are all struggling every day to make ends meet. This fight is far from over. Under the current administration, the tide may be against us, but Bernie Sanders has never lost sight of the goal. He understands that we are not just fighting against a person or a political party. We're fighting for a fundamental shift in the way that our economy works. We are fighting for a system that puts workers at the center and lifts up communities that have long been neglected. As we look to the future, it's clear that we need more leaders like Bernie Sanders, leaders who will stand up against corporate greed, fight for the right to organize, and to ensure that every worker has a fair shot at the American dream. And as I have just a little bit more to say before I introduce our amazing speaker tonight, I'd like to thank all of our unions, my wife, my family, my friends, and everyone who has been in this fight with me since I have started. It is now my great privilege to introduce to you the man who has been on the front lines of this fight for decades, someone who has never wavered in his dedication to workers' rights, and a true champion of the people, my friend, Senator Bernie Sanders.
Thank you, Omaha. All right. Let me begin by thanking all of you for coming out. What a turnout. Thank you very much. Let me thank Eric Williams for his remarks, Precious McKesson, and a special word to Ron Kaminsky of the Laborers Union. when we were originally planning the trip here to Omaha, we were going to do it at the Laborers Union Hall. But then the RSVPs started to come in. So we told Ronnie, if you have to break down the walls or we're going someplace else, here we are. Thank you again. So, why am I here in Omaha, Nebraska tonight? Why will I be going to Iowa City tomorrow? Why do we intend as progressives to go to every corner of this country? And the answer is pretty obvious. This country today, under Trump, faces a series of crises unprecedented in our modern history. And what we do now will impact not only our lives, but the lives of our kids, grandchildren, future generations, and whether the planet itself survives. I'm here in Omaha because the time to act is now. The time to fight back is now. And let me give you some good news and bad news. The bad news is that in my view, and I have some knowledge and experience in this as a U.S. Senator, Trumpism will not be defeated by politicians inside the D.C. Beltway. That is not going to happen. It will be defeated by millions of Americans in Nebraska, in Iowa, in Vermont, and all over this country. Who come together at the grassroots level like we are doing tonight in a movement which says no to oligarchy, no to authoritarianism, no to kleptocracy, no to massive cuts in programs that the working class desperately needs, and no to huge tax breaks for the billionaires and the 1%. And that, my friends, is why we're here in Omaha tonight. So let me tell you what, in my view, is going on in our country today. First, we are rapidly moving toward an oligarchic form of society in which a handful of multi-billionaires not only have extraordinary wealth, but unprecedented economic, media, and political power. And this is no great secret. What I will say about Trump, he's out front. He shows you what he's doing. I was there at the inauguration, and seated right behind Trump was Elon Musk, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerberg, the three. You know those guys. They are the three wealthiest people in America, right behind the president as he's getting sworn in. But that's not enough. Behind those guys are the kind of poor billionaires. They only are worth, 10, 20 billion. 13 of them who were nominated by Trump to be in his cabinet. But it is not only that Trump is surrounded and working for the wealthiest people in this country. That is one reality. Let me tell you another reality that I know that many of you know all too well. And that is that while the people on top have never, ever had it so good, the working families of our country in Vermont, Nebraska, all over this country, are struggling to just make ends meet. All over this country, major housing crisis. All over this country, major health care crisis. All over this country, the price of food going up at the grocery store. Cost of child care, college, unaffordable. And working people are struggling. They're struggling to pay the bills. Older people are wondering how they can put aside a few bucks so maybe they can just retire with a little bit of dignity here in the richest country in the history of the world. So in America today, right now, you don't see it much on TV or in the papers, but right now, we have more income and wealth inequality than we have ever had in the history of the United States. Those three guys, Musk, Bezos, and Zuckerberg, who stood behind Donald Trump, have more wealth than the bottom half of American society, 170 million people. Today, the top 1% owns more wealth than the bottom 90%. And while the very wealthiest people become phenomenally richer, there is another reality. Because we are living in two Americas. For the people on top, never, ever has it been so good. But for working people, the struggle continues just to survive. If you can believe it, and again, we don't talk about it enough, 60% of our people in America today are living paycheck to paycheck. You all know what that means? I grew up in a family, in a rent-controlled apartment. We lived paycheck to paycheck. And I will never forget the stress that my parents dealt with every day in terms of how they pay the bills, how they provide for their kids. That is what 60% of our people in this country today are dealing with. In America today, 85 million of our people are uninsured or underinsured. Now, you don't hear about it much. I was chairman of the committee that dealt with this stuff. Over 60,000 Americans die every year because they cannot afford to go to a doctor. 1 out of 4 Americans cannot afford the outrageously high cost of prescription drugs that the pharmaceutical industry charges us. 20 million Americans are living, trying to survive on wages less than $15 an hour. 25% of our senior citizens are trying to live on incomes of $15,000 a year or less. Can you believe that? I don't know. I frankly don't know how anybody, let alone a senior who has higher health care needs, how does anybody live on $15,000 a year or less? And yet the rich get richer, and that is the reality for working families. But when we talk about oligarchy and what's going on in this country, it's not just that the rich are getting richer while working families struggle. Oligarchy is about political power in a way that we have never seen in the history of America. It's about people like Elon Musk contributing $270 million to Trump's election campaign. But it's not just Musk. It is not just Musk, and it is not just Republicans. Billionaires contribute to the Democratic Party as well. And that is why, if we're going to restore democracy to this country, we got to get rid of the Citizens United Supreme Court decision. Democracy is not about billionaires buying elections. It's about one person, one vote. And that is why, in my view, we've got to move to public funding of elections. And let me tell you how bad and corrupt the situation is. Musk himself not only has contributed a huge amount of money to Trump, and as a result got his reward of being the most important person in the Trump administration, he is also playing a major role with his wealth all over the world. In Germany tomorrow, very important election, Musk has supported a right-wing extremist party. And to tell you how crazy it is, how arrogant these people are, in your neighboring state of Wisconsin, they're having an election for a Supreme Court justice. Not the most important position in the world. But it appears that one of the candidates believes that a woman has the right to control her own body. And if you can believe it, Elon Musk is getting involved in that campaign to defeat that candidate. So let's be clear. When we are taking on Trumpism, we are taking on oligarchy. And you know, lately, I have been remembering. I remember both what I learned in probably the 6th grade, but also every year in a city called Vergennes, Vermont, I go to the Memorial Day parade. It's a beautiful event. And every year we go up on the platform, and the people who do the parade bring up some high school kid to read Abraham Lincoln's speech at Gettysburg. Okay? And that was, let me tell you what that speech was about and how important it is today. There is Lincoln in Gettysburg, days after this terrible, terrible battle. Thousands of people, soldiers, died in order to end the horror of slavery. And Lincoln looks out on that field, and he honors those who gave their lives. And he says, and I quote, that we here highly resolve that these dead shall not have died in vain, that this nation under God shall have a new birth of freedom, and that government of the people, by the people, for the people, shall not perish from the earth. And that is what we believe in. That's what people, brave men and women, for 250 years fought and died for. That is how we became the model for the rest of the world. People look to America and they say, how come ordinary people can vote, can elect their leaders? Why can't we? And our determination right now is to fulfill Lincoln's vision of a government of the people, by the people, for the people, and not a government of the billionaires, by the billionaires, and for the billionaires. That we will not allow to happen. But brothers and sisters, we're not just fighting oligarchy, we are fighting Trump's rapid movement toward authoritarianism in this country. Some of you may have seen a post that Trump put up on his social media. This is what he said, quote, "He who saves his country does not violate any law," end of quote. In other words, what that means in English is that Trump believes he can do anything he wants to do. The law does not apply to him. And that is exactly how he has been behaving. In violation of the Constitution and federal law, Trump attempted to suspend all federal grants and loans. He tried to block funding for Medicaid, Head Start, food stamps, homeless veterans, and so many other programs. Thankfully, millions of people said, "You're not going to do it." The courts stopped them for the moment. He has eviscerated major agencies like USAID, who are providing the help that the poorest people in the world need to stay alive. So the richest people in the world are saying to the poorest people in the world, the United States is not there for you. That is a disgrace. They have eviscerated the Consumer Safety Protection Board, which has helped ordinary Americans gain billions and billions of dollars from the illegal actions of banks and corporations. They have eviscerated the National Labor Relations Board. And what that means is that right now, where workers want to join unions, if a union is organized tomorrow in Omaha or Burlington, Vermont, and the company appeals that decision, there ain't nobody in Washington who can deal with that issue because we no longer have a functioning NLRB. That means those workers will not be able to join the union. But he's not only usurping the powers of Congress, he is also challenging the authority of the federal court system. And I don't know if any of you have been listening to what Vice President Vance has been saying. This is a guy who went to Yale Law School who has concluded that the federal courts do not have authority to stop a president from doing something unconstitutional. And I'll tell you what, it's not only usurping the power of Congress, challenging the court system, he is doing what authoritarians all over the world do. You go after the media. They have sued ABC because they didn't like a program. They are suing Meta. They have sued Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram. They are suing 60 Minutes for a program they didn't like. They are suing the Des Moines Register because they did a poll that he didn't like. And now, the FCC is investigating PBS and NPR. So what he is doing is not very hard to understand. You're in the media, work for some small company, you want to do a critical story on Trump, and your boss is going to say, hey, wait a minute. We can't afford to get sued. These guys are going to sue us for $1 billion. Ditch that story. So they are attacking the First Amendment, and they are attacking the Constitution all over the place. And the other thing, the other reason that I am here this evening is not just our great fear of oligarchy, authoritarianism, the big lie that comes out of Trump's mouth every day. But you didn't know this, that Ukraine started the war. Okay? Everybody in the world knows that Putin started the war except Donald Trump. Donald Trump thinks climate change is a hoax coming from China. Trump thinks that January 6th insurrection was a love fest. Bunch of hippies spreading the love. But what we are dealing with is even more than that right now. And one of the reasons I am here is that the Republican leadership, if you can believe it, is working on what they call in Washington a reconciliation bill. I'm not quite sure what that means, but it's a big bill. In Trump's idea, it is a beautiful bill. So if Trump thinks it's a beautiful bill, watch out. And what I think somebody is leaning on a light switch there. All right. And what this beautiful bill does, which is one of the reasons I am here in Omaha tonight, is not complicated. What it does is give over $1 trillion in tax breaks to billionaires and the top 1%. So you would think that at a time when people like Musk are worth $400 billion, Bezos $250 billion, Zuckerberg a mere $225, whatever it is, you would think they would have enough. But no. They want more. So they want massive tax breaks, and I'll tell you how those tax breaks are going to be paid for. They're going to be paid for by savage cuts to programs that working class people desperately need. At a time when our healthcare system is already broken, they want to make massive, massive cuts to Medicaid. Medicaid provides health care to many, many millions of children and working class people. What many people do not know is that Medicaid also provides a substantial sum of money to help people who go into nursing homes. So we got a nursing home crisis in America. You cut Medicaid, there'll be a lot of families that will not be able to send their parents into a nursing home. Medicaid provides substantial funding for community health centers. Cut Medicaid. Community health centers, which I have been very actively involved in expanding. Got 30 million people use community health centers. Cut Medicaid, it's going to be hard for these community health centers to provide the health care that people need. So what we got right now is Republican leadership, as we speak, are working on this bill. Massive tax breaks for the rich, paid for by cuts to Medicaid, education, housing, and the programs that working people need. Now, it turns out that in the House of Representatives, there is right now a reality where Republicans have a very, very slim majority. Republicans have, as I recall, 218 members. Democrats have 215. They have a 3-vote majority. That is not much. If 2 Republicans go to the Speaker of the House and say, Mr. Speaker, no way am I going to betray my constituents. No way am I going to make massive cuts in Medicaid and other programs to give tax breaks to billionaires. If 2 Republicans do it, that terrible bill is defeated. And what I am asking you to do is make sure that your congressman, Mr. Bacon, is one of those 2 Republicans. And tomorrow I'll be bringing that same message. I will be bringing it all over the country. We can beat that bill. And what I would appreciate all of you doing is to take out your phones and go to berniesanders.com/Nebraska, underlined. And there you will find the phone numbers of your senators and members of Congress. And trust me, I know a little bit about this. These telephone calls work. Because generally speaking, members of Congress are just influenced by their campaign contributors. That's what the system is. But if people at the grassroots level wake up and say, hey, you better pay attention to us or you ain't going back to Washington, they will listen. Okay, when you get on your phone, you'll also find options to sign up to attend organizing trainings or host meetings and house parties on this page. You can do it. So that's berniesanders.com/Nebraska. What I also want to say tonight, while we work hard to defeat oligarchy and authoritarianism and some terrible legislation, that's not good enough. That's playing defensive, which we've got to do right now. We also need to go on the offensive. And what I want to remind you of, because it's easy to forget, we are not a poor country. You know, if we were a really poor country, we'd be having a different type of discussion. We'd say, well, we're really poor, we can't educate our kids, we can't do health care, we can't do housing. We are the richest country in the history of the world. There is nothing we cannot accomplish when we come together. And when we look to the future, we must understand that health care is a human right, not a privilege. And we have got to end the disgrace of being the only major country on earth not to guarantee health care to all people as a human right. In America, millions of our people should not have to work 2 or 3 jobs at starvation wages. We've got to raise that minimum wage to a living wage at least $17 an hour. And right now, people all over this country are desperate to join unions. They know that if they can get, if they want decent wages, decent benefits, decent working conditions, The way to do that is to join a union. And that is why we've got to pass what's called the PRO Act to end the illegal activities of companies making it difficult for workers to join unions. In the richest country on earth, our young people should not go deeply into debt simply because they want a higher education. In the wealthiest country on earth, we should have the best educational system in the world, from child care to graduate school to vocational training. Moms and dads should not have to pay $25,000 a year for child care. Young people should not have to go $50,000 in debt to get a college education. So instead of spending $1 trillion a year on the military, let's invest in our people, make public colleges and universities tuition free. We must address the housing crisis, put lots of people to work at good union jobs, building the millions of units of low-income and affordable housing that we need. And for the sake of our kids and future generations, we must lead the world in transforming our energy system, in combating climate change, and create. And we will not stand by and allow bigotry to show its ugly face in America. We're going to stand tall against all forms of bigotry. We can do it. What the system does, and I deal with the system every day, their strategy is to tell you, to tell ordinary people, you are powerless. Nothing you can do, because Musk and Bezos and all these guys, they got all the power. Don't even try. We got the power, you got nothing. You work for us. That's all you can do. But we know better. We know we can win. We know we can take them on. You know how we know that? Because we know a little bit about American history. We know that going back to the foundation, to the founding of this country, you had very brave people. We learned this in the 5th grade. Brave people who took on the entire British Empire to create a new country. People said, you can't do it. How the hell are you going to take on the British Army? The King of England can't do it. They did it. There was a demand, early years of this country, where working people said, you know what? It should not only be wealthy white men who vote. We want universal suffrage. You can't have that. That's not what America is about. Only the rich vote. People fought to bring about universal suffrage. Everybody votes. People fought so that in the 1920s, women won the right to vote. You think taking on and defeating the slave owners of America was an easy task? It wasn't. But people had the courage and died by the tens and tens of thousands to end the horror of slavery. People said it couldn't be done. Our heroes and heroines did it. And I must confess, I am old enough to have been in Martin Luther King's speech in Washington for jobs and freedom. And people told King, you cannot end segregation in America. But they did it. When workers stood up in the early part of the 20th century and said, you know what, we want a union, and some of them got shot down, beaten up, thrown into jail for wanting to have a union. But workers fought back and won the right to join unions. When children, little kids, 8, 9, 10 years old, We're working in the fields and factories. Working class people say, we want those kids in schools, not in the factories. We abolish childhood labor. And for decades and decades, women said, we demand to control our own bodies. And women won. We're fighting that fight today. But women took on incredible power to win that right. And back in the 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s, people said, you know, you can't pass something like Social Security or Medicare or Medicaid. You can't raise the minimum wage. But working class people demanded that government start addressing those issues, and they succeeded. So I tell you all of those things and more. I mean, we can recall 1941, the United States was attacked at Pearl Harbor. People said, my God, the country was unprepared at the time. Gonna have to fight a war in the East, fight Hitler in Europe. How the hell are we gonna do that? In 2 or 3 years, that war was essentially won because the American people said, we're not going to allow fascism to take over the world. So here we are today in another pivotal moment in American history. And I say to you with confidence, with experience, with some knowledge on this issue, we can defeat them. I know how much money they have. I know their ownership of the media. I know that they can buy and sell politicians. I know all of that. But this I also know, that when we stand together and not let them divide us up by the color of our skin or where we were born or our sexual orientation or our religion, when we stand together, we can defeat them, and we must defeat them. Thank you all very much.